Hello, Superboy Beyond fans. Welcome back to one of our patented commentaries. We're going to do by far one of the worst episodes ever made in the history of the entire series. Great concept, but very piss poor execution. And that would be Obituary for a Superhero. And as Tom pointed out last week, yes, I can hear the groaning from you guys through the computer. We're going to
it's a similar situation to Invisible People in a way. You know, another episode that had a fantastic concept and just stumbled, unfortunately. But yeah.
So we're gonna count you in with a 3, 2, 1 play. There's going to be a heavily filtered version of the episode up there, just so you guys can keep in track. It's not there for you to watch it. You have to watch your own copy. So get your DVD ready or your streaming version. I think you can get it on Amazon or YouTube. It is season 4, episode 20, right?
19.
Okay. Episode 19.
Although it was supposed to be the finale. Thank God, though, that didn't happen.
Yep. So I'm going to count you in with the 3, 2, 1. Okay, so in honor of it being Obituary for a Superhero, we're going to do a 3, 2, 1 groan. Okay, so everybody, 3, 2, 1. Ugh.
I may have to cut in a clip of Sideshow Bob stepping on a rake during the groan. So yeah, why are we doing this episode today? Short answer, we wanted to get it over with. We've been putting off doing a commentary on this episode for quite some time, mostly because it's not one of the bad episodes that it's not one of the bad episodes that's fun to laugh at, even. It's kind of a bleh episode, you know? It's just kind of dull.
Yeah.
It would be better if some of the acting was a little bit better, but I'm not going to complain about child actors.
And I'm gonna point out something here, okay? This moment right now where it says special news report, I was recording this every Saturday afternoon. And when that popped in, I thought it was actually an interruption, and I was going to pause the recording.
Please tell me you didn't.
I did.
Oh. Well, at least I hope it was. Was it rerun? At least could you pick it up another day? So you didn't.
I did get it again when it was rerun.
Oh, good. So yeah, last week we did a clip show. This episode is kind of a clip show too, although it also uses a lot of new clips. Mostly of newscasters.
And bad interviews.
And bad interviews, which is why this is probably one of my least favourite episodes. It's funny, actually, when we asked our audience a while back, what are your favourite episodes and least favourite episodes? I don't think this one came up very often. Most people said Invisible People, which I think is actually slightly better than this one, but not by much. Just because I think it had a stronger concept. Maybe if this was a couple years later and they based this episode around the death and return of Superman from the comics and they took some cues from that might have helped them give it a little bit more weight. But I don't think anybody at this point was thinking that this is actually how it was. I'll tell you what, though, if this was the finale, people would have been pissed. I know that actor from something, but I have no idea what from. Maybe just another episode of Superboy.
Interesting note. One of the teenage girls here, she actually went on to be on the Reba show in the early 2000s as the older daughter.
I never saw it. I never saw it, unfortunately. It's always interesting though when you do see a child actor and they end up doing something that they're a little bit more famous for.
Yep.
Let's face it, Superboy had a few like that, but I mean, the most famous is definitely, Jacqueline Phoenix.
Yeah.
Although at that time, if you go from young Hercules, yeah. Although apparently he was born as Jack or Jacqueline, that is his birth name, but they changed it after they left a cult of some kind.
Mm.
There's documentaries and stuff talking about that stuff, but yeah, they all changed their name when they left that cult to signify a rebirth, which I thought was actually a really quite nice idea. But that's when River became River and Jacqueline became Leaf, although I guess he changed his mind and changed it back later on. Maybe because he realized that Leaf is kind of a laughable name. River at least sounds cool, even if it's technically mostly associated with women. Yeah. Like River's more of a woman's name, but I don't judge. That guy was a legend.
Hmm.
And I wish that he'd still been around to do the Young Indiana Jones TV series. I doubt he would have done it though. So go
on. Given that this is written by Stan Berkowitz, it could have been so much better. I mean, he's done so many of the great episodes of this series.
Mm.
And maybe it's not the writing that's bad. Maybe it's
the directing.
The acting.
Acting is definitely part of it, but I think the direction has got to be part of it, just purely because I don't know. I mean, I get that news channels kind of used to look like that, but the way that the screen next to the reporter was superimposed, you could tell it wasn't actually a screen that he was looking at, which just screams visual effects shot. Yeah. Even if it was better, even if it was like put in there better, if it was composited better, you can tell it's a TV series trying to look like the news rather than actually being the news.
Although the sequence right here with Matt,
one of the best.
It looks good. Like one of the a press conference would have been back then.
And the fact that you've got Peter J. Fernandez acting in this scene, this is maybe the best scene of the episode. And I wish he'd been given more acting to do in other episodes, because it's a shame that maybe his best performance is in this episode. Yeah. I just think what a shame. But I guess, he wasn't going to get another opportunity at this point, since it was supposed to be the finale. Maybe the writers just figured, we've got to give him something to do. He's too good just to have in the background for another episode. Yeah, you can just tell that it's a superimposed screen because it's It's funny that the newsroom kind of looks like a sci-fi set. Like, that looks like he's just like sort of sitting in front of like a transporter from Star Trek or something.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, but satellites back then didn't have camera systems inside them.
No. Also, he's in space. How can we hear what he's saying?
Yeah.
I mean, famously, the tagline of the movie Alien, in space, no one can hear you scream, but apparently we can hear Bizarro talk. Then again, it's comic books. Space clearly works differently in the comics.
Yeah.
I mean, let's face it, Superman 4 has Nuclear Man fly what's-her-face up into space and somehow she's still breathing.
Yeah.
I'm glad that they managed to get Michael Callan back as, like, just to do one last bit, you know.
And this is when we find out that he is the Roger Corbin version of Metallo. Because they finally say Roger Corbin here.
I think in all the other episodes, they just referred to him as Corbin, didn't they?
Yep.
Yeah, it's mostly the new actors that they put in this episode that don't put in the best performance. You know, all the actors that they have return do just they do a fine job. You know, Matt was good, Metallo's good, Bizarro was fine. You know, it's not Bizarro's best scene or anything, but it's always fun to see Bizarro in space, even if it's for just such a silly thing where he could just have been on Earth and it would have been fine.
Yep.
Of all the pictures to choose of Lex, which is something I would put to the direction. You know, this is supposed to be quite a serious episode. At this point, we think Superboy is dead, and that's the photo they choose of Luther. Could they not have chosen something where he looked a little more intimidating?
Lex is about to point out, love that photo you chose of me.
But I mean, that's just a joke that's in there. The photo being there is there to set up as a joke, but
yeah,
it's not needed. You know, you could have cut that joke and just used a photo that made the episode feel like it still had stakes. Because from this moment on, you know, this episode is just gonna, it just becomes comedic.
Yeah.
The tone is broken from this moment on, and it's a shame. Because let's face it, even the news wouldn't have chosen that photo.
The news would have chosen, his mugshot.
Yeah. Mugshot, something in black and white, something that looks intimidating, just to say, like, this guy is a bad dude.
Yep.
That makes him look like a TV comedian. And there's the photo again. As if we hadn't seen it enough the first time. See, I like that moment. It's just a shame that it had that photo in the background, kind of taking away any dread and tension that this episode seems to be setting up.
Yeah.
You know, it's like it with Invisible People. There's a good idea in there. It just, maybe it needed an extra couple of rewrites. Maybe it needed a slightly different style of direction.
I mean, certain things I can kind of deal with. I can deal with the, with. Oh, we got Tommy Puck now. Talking about his creepiness that you mentioned a couple weeks ago. Again, Bill Mumy putting in a solid performance here.
He's great, you know.
But then again, he's been acting since the 1960s at this point.
Yeah, he was, the kid in Lost in Space?
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah.
I mean, in certain ways, it does look like, what we would have had in a 1990s news program. And in certain ways, it doesn't at all.
I just wish that there was more grit to it, just a little bit more realism.
Yeah.
You know, if you're going to do a take on something like this, you need to go all the way. You need to, you know, it's like Leslie Nielsen saying about when he would do comedy, you got to play it completely straight. And something like this, if you're satirizing the news, you have to get the details right.
Yeah.
Can you imagine though if this was the finale and the only scenes we got with Gerard in the finale was this interview and the moment at the end?
Yeah.
I know that. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, as I understand it, they had to kind of beg, borrow, and steal from Warner Brothers to allow them to do those final 2 episodes.
Mm. Yeah, because I mean, depending on who you ask about it, some people say that, you know, it was only ever going to be the 100 episodes and there was going to be nothing else after it, no movies, nothing. But others say different. You know, I guess it just depends on who you ask. Maybe the Salkinds thought that after the success of the show, Warner Brothers would have been more, you know, more open to the idea, and they just weren't for whatever reason. Probably because you know, Superman Lives was still in early pre-production. You know, they were still trying to make another Superman movie at that point. I don't think Tim Burton was involved yet, not for a few more years at least. But was it 1998 that it was originally supposed to be out? But it was in development for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. It's been a while since I've seen that documentary on the film. But I'm guessing that's what it was. They just, rather than make a movie of Superboy, they wanted to go a new direction. They had Lois and Clark in the works. They had movies they probably wanted to make. It makes sense, I suppose.
Mm.
I don't even know why Lana would agree to this interview, to be honest. Oh. Just going to mute Chris just for a moment. I can hear something, music or something in the background. Sorry. Just muting him for a moment, just because, you know, noise. But I think Stacey does a good job in this scene. I just think Matt was slightly better in his. That's all.
Yeah.
I did unmute you for a second there, but I can still hear TV or something going on. Just unmute yourself when you can. I just love that Luther is so cocky about what he's done. That he's just like, yeah, I don't care. You can know where I am. It's not going to matter.
Yeah. I do wish that they kind of put him in the bald cap, though, for this sequence.
Yeah, would have been nice to get one more shot of him bald, but oh well.
I will say this is, even though it's only for a couple of moments, this is probably one of Sherman's better performances as Lex.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got the
Sherman's
face.
Yeah, he's got the smugness, but even just Sherman's face a moment ago when the reporter guy said that they were recovering something from the bottom of the ocean or something, like just for a second, you could see a little bit of panic on his face for a second, but then he decided to just immediately make a joke about getting another Magnum or whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I do think this is not a bad little twist, though.
Yeah. It definitely is a great, and it leads us all to believe that now we know he's not dead.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So, you know, we may be shitting on this episode a fair bit, this commentary, but I like the ending. The ending makes me laugh.
Yeah.
I like that, though. It shows his intelligence to some level. He saw that this he didn't have proof of who did it, and the only way maybe to get proof is to get Lex to confess to what he's done. I think that's actually quite a smart ending. I just wish that it was a slightly better episode that it was attached to.
Yeah. But of course, you know, if they had gone the way that, you know, the Soul Kinds are constantly saying that they were planning on, this would have ended the series, and this whole sequence here would not have occurred.
He actually would have just been dead, I suppose, which is a really strange way to end your superhero show, with the hero getting killed.
Yeah, but
not even fully getting justice for the murder, for the murderer or whatever, you know.
Yeah, but if the plan for the TV movies had gone through, it probably would have started, you know, with amnesia. You know, him walking around not realizing who he is, even though technically they've already done that.
Yeah, well, there it is, the almost finale of Superboy.
Thankfully, it was not a finale.
Yeah, and I'd struggle to give it any more than a 6 out of 10, to be honest. I think even 6 is being generous, but I'm giving it that purely because of the performances of just a few of the actors that are in this episode.
I would agree with you on that. You know, again, Bill Mumy, great. Sherman Howard, great. Matt Ritter, you know, Peter J. Fernandez, great.
Stacy's always good.
Yep.
Yeah, can you imagine, though? I mean, as the finale, if that is all that we would have seen of Superboy, and the ending wouldn't have even been part of it, so all we would have seen is Superboy's last public interview as they put on screen. Like, that would have been a really, really disappointing ending for the show. Like, I would even say that if that was the finale, it would probably be even worse of an ending than the finale for Enterprise, you know. Oh. And let's face it, that is famously hated. But I think this somehow would have been worse. You know, you kill off the main character, you don't even really get justice for the person that killed them, because, okay, Luther's going to prison, but I mean, that's where he goes at the end of every episode. What's going to happen when he breaks out the next time? Yeah. Yeah, it's just, it wouldn't have been a good ending. But anyway, 6 out of 10. I think that's about fair. I don't really want to discuss this episode much more, to be honest with you. I think we've discussed it pretty much to death during this episode. And the good thing is, you know,
which is definitely a sideshow Bob, you know.
Moment, yeah. And thankfully, you know, when we do finish our first round of commentaries, the second round that we're going to do, we'll be watching in order. So it's going to be a very, very long time before we get to this episode again. So it's done. It's out of the way. I hope you've enjoyed our commentary. I understand if this is probably going to be one of our least watched episodes of our show, just because how many people are going to want to watch the episode alongside us.
You know what? They don't even have to actually watch the actual episode. They can just watch us.
Yeah, technically they could. But anyway, 6 out of 10. Best I can do. Thank you all so much for watching. We'll see you next week. We don't know what we're going to be recording next week, but I'm sure we'll have fun.